Somewhere around the year 2020, the city of Los Angeles will have to provide for 5 million people. The surrounding basin will contain over 10 million. Where will they live? Will they have enough schools, enough jobs, enough clean water to drink? How will they live in this huge, impersonal city? And who cares about all that anyway?
I just want to show you where we are. We're on 103rd, the Grape Street right there. When you say Grape Street, there's nothing more I need to explain. This is Watts. This area is the epicenter. There were businesses all along this street. Barbershops, shoe shops, clothing shops, everything. Then the uprising in 65, this is where everything burned down. And then now it's also local. So it's like almost spiritual that local is here as well. I'm a street cook. Even before I was a street cook, I was a street person. I'm out there doing things whether it's approved or not. My whole existence in this world is to nourish and feed people. I want this show to be about the power of us as humans to come together again. Let's not make assumptions. Let's not make stereotypes. And from there, we can start to talk about these things and maybe understand each other. Whether your beliefs differ from mine, we're breaking bread. Watts is the home of prophets and poets. Wanda Coleman, Barry White, Charles Mingus, and Etta James were all raised in Watts. It's a place steeped in history, but also decades of disinvestment. Watts is a small corner of South LA where African Americans migrated from the South. It's a place where they built homes, a sound, a culture, and a community that beat all the odds. And when it was time to demand change, they did. And all hell broke loose. Watts is also the place where we chose to open Loco, a restaurant that looks beyond food to provide healthy options and jobs, and a new narrative of possibilities and hope, in a neighborhood that has been denied them for years. Feeding and nourishing people is what we wanted to do at Loco, but sometimes having a mission and running a business are two very different things.
I had just got out of prison, so for them just giving me the opportunity to come in and work was just a blessing. When they call me, they're like, "Are you still interested in working for us?" I said, "Yes." And then the hardest part, I said, "Yes." I hanged up, and then I was in a halfway house. I was like, "Oh my God, I just blew up. I gotta get this job." So then I called back. I said, "You know what? I'm interested in working. I just have a little problem. I just got out of prison. I'm in a home." She said, "No problem. Don't worry about it. Give my number. They could verify with me." I said, "Yes, Lord." And that helped me get off the halfway house 6 months earlier. Now I got my own place, and I've been good. My team is here. Here comes Rob.
Yes, ma'am. We're finna open up a restaurant. Would you like to work? And I was like, yeah, man, why not? I always wanted to cook. By growing up down the street watching my great-grandmama, my grandmama, my mama, my aunties cook, it brought happiness to everybody. I had seen Roy on a few TV shows. It was one of those experiences that you never thought you'd have.
The existence of Local itself relies on our relationship with a person like this right here. You were already holding down the block, right? It was almost like I didn't know if I would be disrespecting you. It was like, you know, I was gonna ask you, like, could you work here at Local? And I remember that day you came up to me like, "I'm right here." Well, no, I ain't going, "No, I'm right here." Well, you got anything? I was like, that's the day like things opened up from now. Yeah, for sure.
I said, I'll start from the bottom and show you what I can do. I can move from the bottom to the top real quick. And so you had to give that respect to him because he didn't have to come down here. And he didn't have to come down here for respect because he could have just did it on his own anyway. He didn't need us.
This location is known for a lot of violent activities, a lot of violent activities. So, and I know that was one of the questions that Roy, and his crew was asking each other. Is this the right place to open up Loco? So why not? Like Roy said, why not? Everybody's not bad around here. This was a dream for them to open this up. You don't give up on a dream.
Our soul is fast food. Short order grill, sizzling, The idea of local was to look at fast food itself and not shy away from it. Why do people love it? I love it in different moments, different ways, you know, and you got to get that same feeling, but then take that same architecture but fill it with all natural products. These are the Holdies. I mean, look how delicious they look. All natural raised beef, grains, natural cheese from California, you know, so it's things like that. But then when you look at it, it's all messy and like, it looks greasy, but it's not greasy, you know, and it just has that soul of fast food. Same with the burger too. Greasy little burger, but it's not, right? Because 30% is made out of grains, tofu, seaweed. It's not just lip service. This is the pantry of local. Red beans, quinoa, lentils, kombu, shiitake, black beans, farro, brown rice, and whole wheat. Self-explanatory. And Miss Patricia right here, she's making our buns. All the buns are made in-house. It's a fermented dough. It looks the part and it tastes the part, but behind the curtain, it has a whole other philosophy. After you eat it, you walk around like, I feel good, you know? That's really what it's about. The social consciousness of restaurants is a part of the recipe now.
Everybody's trying to, you know, do their part. We got the EBT machine now, and so now it's really showing that it is really for the disadvantaged people because, you know, there's low income. People use their food stamps to go grocery shopping and whatever they have left over, they come in on no-goes. We just had a mother's event because they hadn't been able to get out to get here. And so when they finally got here, see what we had, hey, send your grandkids up here to get it for you. Or call me, I'll walk right around the corner to you, you know. All revenues is good because we're trying to be here for 20, 30, 40, 50 years like McDonald's, you know. You know, they say restaurants close within the first year. Been here almost 3 years. This saved my life. I got to see my son graduate because I was working. I got to see my daughter graduate because I was working. If I wasn't working, you know, who knows? I might not have been here. There's hope in the neighborhood. People that didn't have jobs had a job now, got experience, can go get a job because they have experience now. A lot of things that this restaurant did for people that people from the outside can't see. But from the inside, we know.
It's really important to understand the whole ecosystem in which local exists. That is the community of Watts. Local is only one piece of a larger story. Forget what you've heard or what you've read. Watts is a place plagued by misconceptions. If you really want to understand this neighborhood and community, you have to get to know the people. Keeler Sherrills was my gateway to Watts, and he was instrumental in making local happen. He has dedicated his life to peace and reconciliation. There's a certain hospitality and family network to Watts. As a person first-handedly have received that, you know, and I can tell you for a fact it's like nothing I've ever felt in my life.
Yeah. LA is a transient city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are moving all the time and stuff and everything. In Watts, because of the housing projects, you have generations of people who live in the same place. You know, it creates a whole other dynamic. European culture is very sterile. Man, people be living next door to folks for 15 years and it's like, and people don't even talk.
Yeah.
You know? But here, man,
You're sleeping on each other's couches and
exactly.
Yeah.
You borrow like everything. You don't have a lot, so people are forced to do a lot of exchange.
it's a village,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't mean to be rude.
So Watts, you know, as an acronym, WATTS stands for We Are Taught to Survive. You gotta learn how to survive growing up in this neighborhood. People that died and been shot in these communities and bled out on these streets, but also people have been born on these floors in some of these places. And so this place, it carries a lot of history.
Can you guys explain about what's going on here?
So Jordan Downs is being torn down. This is the first redevelopment since 1947 in the Watts community.
Can we walk there real quick?
Yeah, this one. Jordan Downs is 700 units, so they're actually going to replace the 700 one-to-one, but they're also going to build another 700 mixed rate, and then they're going to build another 200 to 300 market rate.
So this is going to be the new Jordan Downs. So they went for like an Irvine stucco look,
Yeah.
huh? I don't know how I feel about it. I'm confused. Like, I appreciate development, you need new, but
It looks terrible, man.
it looks terrible.
You say cookie cutter.
That's cookie cutter. This was a chance to do the mosaic, historic,
Right.
culture-filled, pride-generating
Yeah.
redevelopment. I'm a little heartbroken. It's kind of weird. I bet a lot of people may not understand how we're feeling
Yeah.
because they're seeing 70-year-old projects
Right.
with bars on them and looking at us complaining about something new. But you got to be here to understand the foundation and the emotional impact. Man, it is
Yeah, man.
wow.
We don't own none of this.
Yeah.
Like people who have had generations of families who have been raised and died and lived in these developments, they should have figured out a formula. You know, not just to get a unit to come back, you know what I'm saying, with a voucher. What about transitioning people from renters to owners so that folks own some of this place? Because then there's a different type of experience and feel when you own something.
The bottom line is we walk through there, nobody is happy. This was an opportunity where we could have shown an example of how you can start the process of healing. It was still those in power deciding what needs to be done for that community.
Outside of the projects, there aren't many places for the residents of Watts to gather, let alone eat. In fact, there is only one sit-down non-fast food restaurant in the neighborhood. It's called the Watts Coffee House, and it is central to the story of the area. Built from the literal ashes of the '65 uprising, the Watts Happening Coffee House became a cultural epicenter for local artists, musicians, writers, and activists dedicated to rebuilding the community and pursuing social change. Desiree Edwards brought the coffee house back to life after it had been closed for 3 decades.
Thanks for having me here.
Glad to have you.
So what's the history of the Watts Coffee House?
How the Watts Coffee House got it started was actually across the street before the '65 uprising. That's it right there.
Yeah.
It was a Watts Happening Coffee House.
Oh,
So
wow.
I didn't create it. I just brought back a neighborhood
I see that.
institution that was, you know, a draw for the community. It's a place of love and peace and unity with a lot of good food to warm that soul.
Being here in Watts now for 3 years,
Right.
you have like a loyal following.
Mm-hmm.
And did that start from the beginning? Was it your wings that got people? Was it the red velvet waffles that got everyone?
It's the being here. I'm just so enthralled by just being here and the people that I've met. You know, people that live here when they have someone visiting, they're proud to bring them in here. You cannot survive without your customers. So, you know, you become the norm. We've watched kids over here grow up.
What's crazy is you came in at a time where you were the only kind of sit-down restaurant,
Right.
and then now you're still the only sit-down restaurant.
Right.
How do we get to a place where there's not just only one restaurant for 100,000 people, and then a few fast food spots and liquor
Right.
stores sprinkled in between?
You know, that's another thing. We only have one grocery store over
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
In the middle of Los Angeles, a prominent community, freeway close. So how can you not be, you know, proactive about having all that accessibility here in this area that can thrive? It needs more.
Not only more business, but it means more for the community.
More jobs.
More jobs, yeah.
And that's the inline goal.
And everyone that works here, you try to hire from the community?
Yes, no work experience whatsoever, because we can train you.
Yeah.
We can train you. You know, that's my duty, I feel, of being here, is that I feel accomplished for the amount of kids that have come through here and gone on and graduated. You want to be a place where you can employ the young, and then you motivate them to go about their life and be a productive citizen. In addition to the fact they're learning a trade, so they go away to school, they can say, "Oh, I've been working."
Yeah.
But see, the worst thing is to go school, graduate from college, and you have no work experience.
Yeah. We just need opportunities.
Right.
Because it
That's
ain't a
the
lack of
bottom
talent
line.
or intelligence or ability.
You're 100% correct.
Desiree created a space for locals to sit down to a home-cooked meal in a setting that celebrates the history of the community. It's a rare space of inclusion and opportunity, where friends can gather and break bread. But it's not just the local businesses that are celebrating the history of the community. At Aquila's house, his hometown pride is literally written all over the walls.
This is crazy. Oh, the mural is beautiful.
Yeah, the buildings that spell Watts, and then this was like the new beginning. Technology, you know,
Oh, yeah.
planting new seeds and stuff and everything.
Your home is like Epcot Center.
There's a whole lot more to Aquila than meets the eye. In the early 90s, he worked alongside activist and football legend Jim Brown to help broker the 1992 peace treaty between the Crips and the Bloods.
Does this live in a museum anywhere, or
Nope,
it lives in your chest?
lives in my chest.
The Multi-Peace Treaty, April 29th, 1994. It wasn't 92.
Well, they signed it in '94, but the
Okay.
peace treaty happened in '92.
Okay. Crips and Bloods General Armistice Agreement signed in the Imperial Courts. It's written as a contract with the articles.
Like the first 2 years of the peace treaty, man, gang homicides dropped 44% in the neighborhood. So then we learned real quick about the economics of law enforcement, that they was actually invested in the problem. So every time a shooting happens, they roll out more cops, and now there's overtime money. And so, you know, there was this cop named Sunshine. When we were celebrating the peace treaty, Sunshine had drove up and stuff. We was like, Sunshine. We was like, man, the peace treaty, oh man, ain't you happy? You ain't got to worry about no more. He was like, man, you told me it'd be a cold day in hell before I ever support the peace treaty. He said, I make $50,000 a year as a base salary. He said, I make another 60 in overtime. He said, I put my daughter through college on your ignorance. We were like, what? You know, I'm like, we thought these folks would be excited about us. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, we just want to stop killing up each other and have a safe neighborhood and create opportunities for our kids to have better opportunities and stuff, you know? But, you know, they didn't see it that way because it was invested in the problem.
Every week, Tequila and his mom, Mama Wajia, prepare home-cooked meals for those in need. It's a community tradition dating back to the 60s where she and others began to heal the wounds of oppression through food. Her teachings have followed Tequila from childhood and inform what Local and the Watts Coffee House are all about.
I'm the second one of slavery.
Okay. So
My mother wasn't a slave.
Your mother was a slave.
My daddy worked in the field. My mother worked in the house. We called a slave master. He gave them land. Then when they said they were free, my mother and my father still worked for him as sharecroppers.
Okay.
And he gave them some little houses. They were Ku Klux Klan still at that time.
Yes.
And they ran us out of town. We was traveling from one house to another, and the last house that I can remember, they had bombed it.
You would have stayed in Louisiana if they didn't run you out of town?
Yes, because we had houses, we had land.
Yeah. And so is this a familiar story for a lot of the first wave of folks that came to Watts?
Mostly.
Mostly.
I'm gonna let it get green, then I'm gonna rinse it with cold water,
Okay.
so it can stay green.
Oh.
Then I'm gonna put the bell peppers in.
They was a part of that first wave that came in the early 40s.
Yeah.
But you know, in the 50s, that's when you had that huge migration. 400,000 black folks out of the South, like, you know, basically escaped that place running for their life.
Wow, that looks good. Did you already rinse it and
Oh,
stuff?
sure.
It smells almost like Chinese food, to be honest. Like it has that all that spice in there.
About 214, 215. The homeless population had rose. There wasn't no food around or nothing. So I had to cook.
You just give it away?
I gave it away.
And it comes out of your own pocketbook and you're paying for everything?
Yeah, mostly.
It's like cooking for your family because
Yeah.
the family is Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I just tasted the sweet potato.
Yeah.
That's free? Oh my God.
Tequila and Mama Wajia have been an inspiration for me. Their selfless service to the community is at the core of who they are. They don't do it for fame or self-gratification. They do it because it's the right thing to do.
Free plates, free plates, free plates, free plates. On the 3rd Street, you struggle Watt Depot, get a line. First come, first serve.
There's this thing that if you're helping someone, somehow you're losing. Someone else wins, somehow you lose.
What you want, Kelly? You want salad?
If somehow you give, they're taking.
That's a good thing?
Yeah. So it's these very polar binary thought patterns that we have in this country, you know, of if I give you a little bit, that means somehow you're taking advantage of me. And that's not the case. Just follow me, I get you everything, okay?
Thank you. You're welcome.
And when someone asks you for help, make sure you grab your fork and your knife. It doesn't mean that they're less of a human than you.
Thank you, God bless.
We're in a situation where we need to help each other as humans in this moment of beautiful life.
Thank you.
You just feed people. Maybe it doesn't solve everything, but it definitely solves something. Everyone understands the struggles of life. Local is a part of that too. Sure, we want this to be a thriving success out the gates, but sometimes life doesn't work that way. It's time we were doing our pre-production. We had announced that Local was going to take a hiatus from retail sales and move into catering. We are not closing. We're going to take a step back and see how we can keep this thing thriving for the marathon. Everyone took those words and made a conclusion on their own that we failed, closed, and see, I told you so. Everyone wants it either to be a success or a failure. Local is either going to change the world, have 1 million stores, and completely figure out the puzzle of poverty and access, or it's a failure. no one wants to highlight all of the little things that happen in between. If you want to take us down individually, go ahead, but don't take the community down with us. We as a human race have decided that this one piece of paper is our capital. Shouldn't it be one thing within a recipe of other things? This is a currency. It's the currency of human life, you know? Local is a restaurant built for and by the community of Watts. Through thick and thin, we're here to feed, celebrate, and help heal the wounds of the community. Yeah, man. It's gonna be a good day. You can already feel it, right? Already feel it. And on the corner of 103rd and Grape Street, there is no bigger celebration than Hood Day.
Right now, today is October 3rd. October 3rd is 10th month, 3rd day, 10-3, 103.
Yeah. We doing it up today, you feel me? It's all love today. We just represent 103.
Today's Hood Day, the community was gracious enough to move their festivities over to our parking lot here. This is a celebration of their lives, of this neighborhood, of everything that Watts stands for. It's a celebration of family, it's a celebration of life, you know what I mean?
When we do like everybody else do, we get together and we break bread. You know, we fellowship. That's what this is. A day that we say we're going to remember all our homies. A day that we ain't going to say we're going to have a great day. We're going to have a great day. It's going to be great and lovely. That's what we have today.
Yes, it is, and it's gonna be a great food.
A great food. Okay, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing.
It's chicken.
This is when you break bread with me.
It's about 103rd, it's about Jordan Downs, it's about Grape, it's about opening back up and being a part of the neighborhood. It's for that chef's table. Shout out David Kell, what up, man? We got you out here.
Turkey tacos.
Loco, man. A lot of us, man. That's how we get out. Food always good here.
Hey,
man.
This is the man right here.
How you doing?
Watts Life.
What's life in the house?
You got the cars out? I just want you to see the beauty of local. I want you to see the beauty of Watts. This is just a sliver of what local is.
It's love with us. You gotta get the opportunity to receive it. We can give it. Chef been giving it.
It's
Look
a
at it.
privilege. It's a privilege to be able to be here.
Don't put your hands on him. He ain't out there beside while he's running. All right, bring it on. You ain't gonna put him, let your hands on the go. Don't put, he ain't putting none in your face.
Everything inside, no alcohol, you don't have to have a permit.
Got it.
Okay? No, you gotta keep it like an open business, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, we're open.
Okay. But this is all your property, you gotta have to control that, okay? Alright, cars legally parked.
All right.
Get rid of all the beer, you guys dispose of it, right?
All right. So let's do that. Let's get your men off of them.
Inside and not, they can't hang on the
All right.
street either.
All right. So let's work both ways. We'll get your men off of them. We'll pull everyone in.
Hey man, they doing what they always
Yeah.
do, harassing. You feel me? They harassing, we chilling, having a good time. This is what they do.
You gonna check everybody from out of arrest? Oh my God.
These guys, you know what?
Come on, we didn't change the command.
Hey, knock it off.
Paying attention to everything else. Knock it off, boys. Y'all don't even respect the motherfucker as a motherfucker civilian. Everybody's just a gangster. Respect this community.
Hey, Jay,
That's an illegal search. Illegal search. That's an illegal search.
Go live, go live. Go live. Illegal search procedure.
how you want somebody to change when you treat them the same way all the time? You want somebody to change, but you're gonna treat them the same way every time you see them, as a criminal. And y'all know where we work at. If y'all was worried about something, y'all wouldn't be right here. Y'all be where y'all supposed to be. Instead of over here blaming us for shit. Every time we got something positive going on, y'all come through with the same stuff.
Just wasting all the taxpayers' dollars just because it was a group of right?
They having too much fun. They having too much fun. It's too peaceful. Y'all wrong. And they know they wrong.
They know this place is a safe haven. They know that. Everyone, all the way up to the chief of police, knows that. Doesn't mean they're the enemy, but doesn't mean we're the enemy either. And we need to break down the idea of who's the enemy.
That's right. This is 10 trading.
Ain't nobody over here doing no respecting. We just over here hanging.
They know, bro.
We ain't got nowhere to
They
hang.
know what local represents over the last 3 years, and they still come up with it.
They know.
This is not against the police department, or against Grape Street, or against local, or against Watts, or against anyone. This is just trying to show the humanity of people. Maybe if the police could see the humanity in these young gentlemen here versus just running up on them, then maybe they could get a different reaction or a different explanation, or maybe a bond could be created. But if that relationship is always based on that, how you ever going to progress?
That's what locals here. I'm sorry they had to sort of do that. They don't want to have a good time anyway.
That's what locals here.
Yeah, that's crazy though.
They're still burdened with the mistakes of the past, so they can never correct their future. A future that was never even promised to them to begin with. This is the truth of reparation in our country, in admitting and being sensitive enough to say we were wrong. Is for all of us to just say that we were wrong, that I'm sorry, that I see it, that I will do something about it.